Hi guys, this is your friend Leticia. Welcome to my channel. It is 4:03 a.m. and I am still up. I've had 2 cups of coffee and I'm very alert. I am not sleepy at all. I'm so excited about this video that I'm doing today. It's going to be about Carlos Ruiz Zafón. Last video, I discussed his works and some tidbits about the author, but actually I did some more digging up today and I found some unfortunate news. The author, Carlos Ruiz Zafón, actually passed away from colon cancer earlier this year. He was battling it for quite some time and he did not make it. The good thing is that he is going to live on through his legacy of the books that he wrote, the contributions that he made to literature. What I actually wanted to do today is this is the book that I showed you last time. I wanted to read a little bit from the book, a little section, so that you get a taste of why he was so revered. Um, the first part of the book is titled The Cemetery of Forgotten Books. I still remember the day my father took me to the cemetery of forgotten books for the first time. It was the early summer of 1945, and we walked through the streets of a Barcelona trapped beneath ashen skies as dawn poured over Rambla de Santa Monica in a red of liquid copper. Daniel, you mustn't tell anyone what you're about to see today, my father warned. Not even your friend Tomas. No one. Not even Mommy? My father sighed, hiding behind the sad smile that followed him like a shadow through life. Of course you can tell her, he answered, heavy-hearted. We keep no secrets from her. You can tell her everything. Shortly after the Civil War, an outbreak of cholera had taken my mother away. We buried her in Montjuic on my fourth birthday. I can only recall that it rained all day and all night, and that when I asked my father whether heaven was crying, he couldn't bring himself to reply. 6 years later, my mother's absence remained in the air around us, a deafening silence that I had not yet learned to stifle with words. My father and I lived in a modest apartment on Calle Santa Ana, a stone's throw from the church square. The apartment was directly above the bookshop, a legacy from my grandfather that specialized in rare collector's editions and second-hand books. An enchanted bazaar, which my father hoped would one day be mine. I was raised among books, making invisible friends in pages that seemed cast from dust and whose smell I carry on my hands to this day. As a child, I learned to fall asleep talking to my mother in the darkness of my bedroom, telling her about the day's events, my adventures at school, and the things I had been taught. I couldn't hear her voice or feel her touch, but her radiance and her warmth haunted every corner of our home, and I believe with the innocence of those who can still count their age on their 10 fingers, that if I closed my eyes and spoke to her, she would be able to hear me wherever she was. Sometimes my father would listen to me from the dining room crying in silence. On that June morning, I woke up screaming at first light. My heart was pounding in my chest, as if it feared that my soul wanted to carve its way out and run off down the stairs. My father hurried into my room and held me in his arms, trying to calm me. I can't remember her face. I can't remember Mommy's face, I muttered, breathless. My father held me tight. Don't worry, Daniel. I'll remember for both of us. We looked at each other in half light, searching for words that didn't exist. For the first time, I realized my father was growing old. He stood up and drew the curtains to let the pale glint of dawn. Come, Daniel, get dressed. I want to show you something, he said. Now, at 5 o'clock in the morning? Some things can only be seen in the shadows, my father said, flashing a mysterious smile, probably borrowed from the pages of one of his worn Alexander Dumas romances. Night watchmen still lingered in the misty streets when we stepped out of the front door. The lamps along the Rambla sketched an avenue of vapor that faded as the city began to awake. When we reached Calle Arco del Teatro, we continued through its arch toward the Ravel Quarter, entering a vault of blue haze. I followed my father through that narrow lane, more of a scar than a street, until the gleam of the Ramblas faded behind us. The brightness of dawn filtered down from the balconies in cornices and streaks of slanting light that dissolved before touching the ground. At last my father stopped in front of a large door of carved wood blackened by time and humidity. Before us loomed what to my eyes seemed the carcass of a palace, a place of echoes and shadows. Daniel, you mustn't tell anyone what you're about to see today, not even your friend Tomas. No one. A smallish man with vulture features framed by thick gray hair opened the door. His impenetrable aquiline gaze rested on mine. "Good morning, Isaac. This is my son Daniel," my father announced. "Soon he'll be 11, and one day the shop will be his. It's time he knew this place." The man called Isaac nodded in inviting us in. A blue-tinted gloom obscured the sinuous contours of a marble staircase and a gallery of frescoes peopled with angels and fabulous creatures. We followed our host through a palatial corridor and arrived at a sprawling round hall, a virtual basilica of shadow spiraling up under a high glass dome, its dimness pierced by shafts of light that stabbed from above. A labyrinth of passageways and cramped bookshelves rose from the base to pinnacle, like a beehive woven with tunnels, steps, platforms, and bridges that presaged an immense library of immensely impossible geometry. I looked at my father, stunned. He smiled at me and winked. "Welcome to the cemetery of forgotten books, Daniel." I could make out a dozen human figures scattered among the library's quarters and platforms. Some of them turned to greet me from afar, and I recognized the faces of various colleagues of my father's, fellows of the Second-Hand Booksellers' Guild. To my 10-year-old eyes, they looked like a brotherhood of alchemists in furtive study. My father knelt next to me, and with his eyes fixed on mine, addressed me in a hushed voice he usurped for promises and secrets. "This is a place of mystery, Daniel, a sanctuary. Every book, every volume you see here has a soul. The soul of the person who wrote it and of those who read it and live and dream with it. Every time a book changes hands, every time someone runs his eyes down its pages, its spirit grows and strengthens. This place was already ancient when my father brought me here for the first time many years ago, perhaps as old as the city itself. Nobody knows for certain how long it has existed or who created it. I will tell you what my father told me, though. When a library disappears or a bookshop closes down, when a book is consigned to oblivion, those of us who know this place, its guardians, make sure that it gets here. In this place, books no longer remembered by anyone, books that are lost in time, live forever, waiting for the day when they will reach a new reader's hands. In the shop, we buy and sell them, but in truth, books have no owner. Every book you see here has been somebody's best friend. Now they have only us, Daniel. Do you think you'll be able to keep such a secret?" My gaze was lost in the immensity of the place and its sorcery of light. I nodded, and my father smiled. "And do you know the best thing about it?" he asked. I shook my head. "According to tradition, the first time someone visits this place, he must choose a book, whichever he wants, and adopt it, making sure that it will never disappear, that it will always stay alive. It's a very important promise for life," explained my father. "Today, it's your turn." There are many other books, many other authors that I want to discuss with you and talk to you about. If you are interested, let me know about your book and I will gladly do a review as well. I welcome it. I enjoy reading, it's a passion of mine. I won't mind at all. It is 4:13 a.m., friends. It is time for me to call it a night. It's been a pleasure being with you again. I send you my love, and until next time, take care.